What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to this episode of Split Screen D&D. My name is Tom Quinn, Resident Dungeon Master. I'm on one side of the screen attacking all things D&D.
But I'm on the other side of the screen. I'm Josh Winans. I'm the resident player character, and I'm also addressing all things D&D. I don't think you get to claim that. That's both of us.
Well, we both are. I'm just saying I'm on this side attacking, you're on that side attacking, which means we're attacking all things Dungeons and Dragons from both sides of the screen. And the requisite riff or drums or
whatever
it is. Whatever it is. We
one.
need to start taking bets. Next video. What's
I love it.
Do?
So let's roll right into this one, buddy.
Let's dive right into this one. I think this is going to be a good one, and I think this is one that's going to be applicable to
a lot of
tables, and hopefully provides people some insight on maybe how to sidestep. So,
before we begin, we love all the attention we've been getting and all the awesome viewership and all the comments. Oh my gosh, the comments are amazing. Please keep it up. But
thank you.
Like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, do all the things that you lovely people are doing. Thank you guys and girls so much.
And be keeping your eyes out. We are crawling closer and closer to that 100 sub number. And at 100 subs, we are going to be doing a sweet giveaway for some awesome dice vaults. Pictures to come. But be keeping your eyes peeled.
Love it. All right. So today's discussion, I think this is something that might not happen at a new table, but I think will happen to most tables eventually, and that is the subject of burnout. That you go so hard or so long at D&D that eventually it no longer feels like the joy that the game should be. It feels like an obligation, which could lead even to resentment, and which will kill a game and maybe even kill a love of a hobby, which is a huge danger.
Right.
So that's what I want to talk about today.
Sweet. I think... I mean, obviously, I think there's going to be some things to be said on the DM side, but if you're cool with it, let's talk a little bit about burnout on the player side.
Ooh, which, okay.
I mean, I guess first and foremost, I was going to kind of try to get into your head on what
you can get in my head anytime.
It is Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
What would you say is the largest factor in player burnout? Because I actually think burnout is going to occur for different reasons depending on what side of the screen that you are existing on. What if you just had to throw out there? I guess we should start on the player side. Do you think you've ever experienced burnout?
Myself in D&D?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I've been very fortunate.
I take it because you qualified with D&D, you've burnt out in other things in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be blown away if there's someone out there who has never burned out on something.
Yeah. I've lived life a little bit. Yeah. So I've burned out on things.
And I think most people know that feeling. They even know the feeling of, they can see the burnout on the horizon. That's
a good topic. Like, how can you see it coming? But to address your question, like, what is for player burnout? Again, I've never experienced it. There are times, the time obligation for D&D is a lot.
Absolutely.
Especially when life gets in the way. We are both pretty new fathers. We have lives. We have family nearby. Lots of obligations. Right. So sometimes that can become a problem.
Right.
We're really lucky that we're able to work that out.
Yeah.
But I think from the player side, I think burnout mostly would occur from when they just don't get enjoyment out of the game, which is a really broad. It could be maybe character. It could be maybe the setting. There's lots of things.
Now, before we go any further, you actually mentioned character, and let's start there and kind of pick at that a little bit, because
absolutely
that was the first thing that came to my mind was character fatigue.
Yes.
Now, because as a DM, it's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. We obviously don't get to form the same bond with any one character that we that a player would, but
because you kill him, you ass.
I mean, if I'm doing my job well, yes, absolutely.
I'll never forgive you. Anyway,
no, but it's. I think it is actually hard for someone who is a perma DM to think about getting sick and tired of living in the skin of a character that you kind of are tired of being in.
Yeah, well, it's hard because a campaign can last maybe months, but for us, it's about a 2-3 year commitment.
Right.
And you have this great idea when you're starting off, but what happens when a year a year in, you're like, man, this is not turning out what I thought.
Right.
So like, I have full permission to use this story. That's what happened to my wife, Ariel.
Right. In our 4th edition,
the greatest edition ever in D&D. Good old 4E.
I'm going to literally cut that audio, and I'm gonna dub over it with something really dumb.
Well, like saying 4E is the best edition. Anyway, so she was a character that she did not jive with at all, and she never did from the very beginning. And we played for what, a year, 2 years in the 4E campaign. And so what happened is she was like, you know what, suck it up. Maybe you can find something, but she never addressed it. And it eventually led to where she quite just hated the game.
Yeah.
It got to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. I think there's probably 2 things there. One is certainly, and we've kicked this dead horse, and we'll continue to do so.
Oh, I love kicking dead horses.
Yep.
I
leave a wake of them in the campaign, so you guys have plenty of opportunities.
Poor Lumpy. Rip.
But so 2 things on that. One, I think, and again, this was let's call it a different era of D&D for us.
The greatest era.
I think this. This was much more akin to our pizza and beer D&D days.
These are the dungeon crawling.
But we've talked a lot on this channel about communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's one big thing I would say as a player. If you are beginning to, and again, you're going to have sessions where you get to the end of the session, you kind of go, You're going to have sometimes a couple sessions where you're kind of, maybe you find that you were in a little bit of a slump. Maybe you start to realize that you're burning out in that space. As a DM, I would absolutely say, if you're a player, speak with your DM, because if any of my players ever came to me going, I'm just not getting anything out of this anymore, that's a huge red flag. That should be a huge red flag for them.
Right.
Huge red flag for me that, one, I think that conversation would immediately be, is this something you think we can resolve with your character? Or is this something that narratively we maybe need to look at bringing something new into the game?
Well, that sounds like, so I think a lot of player characters, I'll address this first. You said, like, how long should you, like you said, hey, you should wait a little bit of time. I'm going to run this by you. I think you should wait 1 character level before you, like, really... Because every class has a couple slumps.
Oh, well, and especially if you're feeling mechanically burnt out,
because that's all that matters.
That's maybe a different issue, because I think, well, I shouldn't say it's common knowledge, but players who are coming into the game, or players who have been with the game for a while, should take the time to recognize that the power arcs of your characters vary from class to class, but in general, there are places in which you are not going to be blown away by the mechanical progress of your character.
Yep, every class.
Yeah, and so I think that's a great prescription to say, like, give it some time.
Right.
Now, if you find that at your table it takes 3 months for you to level,
that's a long time, isn't it?
Then maybe, but I think the long and short is, don't throw the towel in too soon. But absolutely, if you're starting to feel like that, no harm's going to come from going to your DM and say, hey, I'm just kind of not feeling it. These last few sessions, like, I feel like, and here's another thing from a DM standpoint. You may have resolved a substantial portion of a character arc, like to the point that they have nothing left to do. That's a problem for a character. If a character has seen the end of their character arc, as a DM, it's time to introduce some new reason for that character to be an adventurer, or maybe that character's adventuring life is done. If you've avenged your father's death, and that was the whole reason you set out, and you did it by level 3. Now, either you as a character or a player need to figure out why you're still traveling with the party.
Yes.
And the DM can certainly help by introducing new things into the narrative and new spaces for that character to get excited about. But it's also a call from a DM standpoint and from a character standpoint that there is nothing written in stone that says we're sitting down to play a 1 to 20. and your character doesn't accomplish everything they intend to accomplish by level 13.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why force the issue then? And again, I think that's a question that every player needs to ask themselves and answer for themselves.
I think that's where player characters, and that's another thing that can revitalize you a little bit is dig a little bit deeper into your character, for sure. Because Calfit is just he was the first one done with his.
Well, and I'll say there's still a not insubstantial chunk floating in the ethos.
But I was like, okay, he did this, but this opened the door. He is now a paladin of Elistrahi. Now he's got to defend the world.
Right. And I think that's a good example is your initial character arc was simply becoming a paladin, which, I mean, you were a paladin, but the way we structured things narratively, you were kind of looking for this connection.
Right.
And that felt like a big accomplishment. This arc is completed.
Yes.
But it really was just the first step in becoming the Lord Commander, the first step in defending the realm, in addressing Shio as this antagonist in the story. There's still plenty to do, I think.
Right. And think of like common any story. Lord of the Rings, you know? When Frodo reaches Rivendell, that's not, which should be maybe the natural conclusion. He made his quest. No, that was the beginning.
Right.
Because it just.
And I think that's a great example of how, as a character, you may feel that you have, and again, let's just say Frodo legitimately was like, nope. I would have loved this. This is what I said I was gonna do. Gandalf asked me to do this. And the thing is that obviously it's a different story.
Yeah.
But let's just say that Frodo, every step beyond that, fundamentally regretted that decision. I don't think that that is not the way his character reads.
No.
I mean, when it comes, but it would not be an enjoyable story if the entire time Frodo hated that he decided to take the ring to Mount Doom.
Yeah, because he understood the he wouldn't regret. It took a toll on him.
Oh, absolutely.
But he still did it.
But if you think about, the person playing Frodo,
yeah.
If they said, all right, I'll keep on adventuring, and for the next 16 levels, they hated doing it.
Oh, that would suck.
The Lord of the Rings would suck. The narrative would, part of what endears you to his character is the fact that despite the horrors of pushing on, it's not done begrudgingly. And and a player, as much as we think about characters as they should be moving through these arcs of their own free will. Now, there might be times where they are begrudging the actions they have to take, but begrudging their existence is a very different thing. And certainly if a player's dissatisfaction with playing that character is beginning to manifest at the table,
it's taken away from the enjoyment of the game.
Then it's a pretty obvious, if you're going to choose one of the two, as a DM, I would say, let's get you playing something you are excited about again.
Right, right. Well, and that just hearing you talk about it, like, let's say I, as a player, am just not enjoying my character anymore. I come up and talk to you. The worst that's going to happen is we roll up a new character and figure out a way to kill.
Well, I'd say the worst that's going to happen is I go, tough it up.
No, okay.
And now I would say that's a bad response.
Okay.
I if you came to me and said, I'm really not liking this, my response would not be, suck it up.
The only reason why I could see that being good is now you're like, oh, I need to engage this player some more or something like that.
Well,
but then you need to communicate to the player that you're going to do that, because otherwise he's like, well, fuck you, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I think
say that all the time. If brought to me someone who was expressing that they're getting burnt out, specifically like with the character fatigue. If someone came to me and said, I just am not enjoying Dungeons and Dragons, and I said, is it your character? And then I don't think it's my character. I love my character. I'm not.
Ooh.
Well, that's a different kind of burnout. But in the character fatigue, there's something I can do about that. And that's, I will happily find a narrative reason that we can say goodbye to this character in a way that's meaningful and hello to a new character. Before we get too far from it, I want to touch on one thing. But
yes, please. I'm just going to finish my thought. It's like, in that case, as a player character, never be afraid to approach a DM.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, I mean, again, that's the dead horse that we've kicked so many times.
Communicate.
Yeah,
Hey, did you know you should communicate? I don't know if you got that message
do
yet,
it. Just
you should communicate.
do it.
Well, okay, sorry.
But there's one other thing coming off of the story that you were conveying about Ao and playing Shenny. And for everyone at home, she was a Warforged Warden in
such a good,
a broke mechanical combination.
Great combo.
And that springboards me into my next talking point.
All right.
Is I have a feeling.
No, I did not have nothing to do with that.
I think you had something to do with that. And now I may be wrong.
No,
but I'm guessing that you did.
No, I did.
Because
I totally did.
I mean, it is so obviously a mechanical design from the ground up. Now, all I was going to say is that I think is a great warning for play for yourself. If there's someone at your table who is telling you should be playing the game different, and you start doing it, and you go, "This isn't fun anymore." I got a pretty good idea of why, because you're not playing for yourself anymore. So
you're absolutely right.
It's a cautionary tale, I think, of, and like I said, had you steered her down the wrong mechanical path, where it's like, this character sucks, I can't do anything. It was a phenomenal character mechanically,
right?
But it just wasn't what she was getting out of the experience.
And we were so new at that point. I'm just basically trying to excuse my behavior, but we were so new at that point. I was just talking like, oh, I know this is going to be good mechanically. You can figure out the rest.
And the thing is that is not intended to throw any shade. In fact, I think it's great.
It hurt me. It's what you said, Tom.
I
thought we were friends.
It is great when players are providing that encouragement. I mean, there are veteran players who, they can rattle off every ability of every subclass to every, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So if there's a new player who's coming in and they're going, I don't know what to do. Great, provide them some advice. But the caution isn't to that player providing the advice. It's to the player who is maybe consuming that advice. Take that in and go, what do I want out of this experience?
Yeah.
And then make something that's going to deliver that for you.
Which does take experience to know what you get out of the game.
Absolutely.
So that's
I would never encourage anyone to jump into a 1 to 20 as their first character.
Which I think is what our first character was Rygar and all them. But I think we kind of tried to jump into the 1 to 20 too soon.
I'd say. So
this is really your fault.
It generally is. I mean, with regard to problems at the table, we generally have to wear the crown of everything that's transpired.
Sweet. I now have absolved myself of all transgressions. I'm clean again. So that's good.
You've washed your hands. No, I think so. I mean, and I think that does a pretty good job of outlining. Now, I know that there can be other aspects outside of your character.
Absolutely.
But to me, the fundamental, the fulcrum of player burnout
is the character.
That would be my guess.
And if it's a game setting, like you're just like, man, I'm sick of the medieval fantasy, then you might need to find another table to Pathfinder or something like that.
And something I might suggest also is, again, another advocacy for talking to your DM, talking to your players, is you might not be the only one feeling that way.
That's a good point.
And I would wholeheartedly, I think the initial Band-Aid that people try to put on that feeling of burnout is, I need to step away from this for a minute. Because I think there are so many activities in your life where part of the reason you're burning out is because you're just doing it way too much.
No, that's a really, I think that's the initial, I think everyone is to take a step back. Let's explore that then.
Yeah.
So pros and cons. Let's explore pros first, and then we can explore cons. And we haven't even talked about DM burnout, which is by far,
what do you want to hammer DM it, and then we can talk about the solution, because we're kind of getting into the solution side before getting into
let's talk about DM. Yeah. So what would you say is the number one cause of DM burnout?
I would say a couple things. One, I would say there are external factors and internal factors. The internal factor, I think, for a lot of DMs is, I'm reluctant to use the term overprep. I'm going to use the term overprep, but I think that might be poorly received in some regards. But if you are spending 8 hours prepping for a 4-hour session,
Ooh.
every time you play a 4-hour session,
Yeah.
I can absolutely see how you might get burnt out on that level of prep. I mean, it could be more than that. It could be, I mean, who knows, but that's an internalized issue. Like, that's you deciding you're going to spend all that time or not feeling comfortable without spending all that time. And it might just be more time than is reasonable when given your job or school or, so that's the internal factor.
Well, let's explore that then.
Okay.
So the internal is it just takes up so much time. What would your idea of a solution for that internal conflict?
I'm getting very close to completing a DM and the PM on this exact thing.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. And again, this has been some derided advice, actually. The don't over prep advice has been, I think it is relatively common advice. And I think mostly what people mean is you can't prepare for everything, so don't try to. I think that's what they mean by that.
And I could see that, especially with a new DM, that'd be a very, very good advice to give, because you want to prepare for everything and to accept the inevitability that you're not going to be able to.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. The episode that I'm going to be doing in the very near future is
Which
an
you
episode.
Should totally check out.
Sick plug number 2.
Yeah.
It is that, and I don't want to go too far into this because, like I said, I'm going to have a whole episode on it, but is to intentionally push yourself into that space where you are wholly unprepared. So the actual episode is on 0 prep sessions, intentional 0 prep sessions.
Would you make this be a one shot, or would it be part of the regular
campaign?
Okay,
I don't want to get into all the details.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
But with the idea being that the more comfortable you get with being ill prepared, the more comfortable you are with a smaller amount of session prep per session.
Well, that makes
total sense.
That
pays dividends to insulate yourself against preparation burnout, that kind of internalization. Now, again, there's going to be a lot of people who go like, fuck that advice. That's bad advice.
Yeah.
Wait until you see the DM and the PM. I actually think I think there's a solid rationalization for it. I don't want to go any further than that here.
All right.
The external factors from a DM side, I think, is we're talking about that prep. Now imagine that same person is doing 8 hours of prep, and maybe they're tolerating that just fine. Maybe again, they might really want things prepped, and that's how they
feel comfortable,
really comfortable, and that's what they do.
Okay.
Now imagine they do that. Game day shows up, and 2 of their 4 players can't make it.
Ooh.
And the next session shows up, and 1 of their 4 players can't make it. And before they get their actual, payoff for that work that they've done, they've had to sit through, a couple of no call, no shows, or late call, no show, whatever. I absolutely think that's the external factor, and this can manifest in a bunch of ways. I think, and it's been talked about, I think, in many. From many angles, is that relationship between. I mean, it's a meme. There are so many memes of the DM like sitting there behind the screen and like checking the watch and like they're and
it is a comment.
Now, but I can't speak from experience. We schedule things in a very specific way, and we have insulated ourselves against those problems. But I can tell you 100%, it wouldn't take many no call / late call no shows for me to go getting a little burnt out on this, so I think that's those I would say are the 2 major factors. And again, there's so many other reasons you can, but I do think that the internalized one, that's in your control as a DM.
Yes.
And so that's all the more reason to take steps to start unburdening yourself of that feeling, that need to, I got to do 2 more hours of prep, or, I got to get this,
But the external you don't have control over, which must be hard.
Yeah. And I think much like we just said, talk to your DM, you're feeling burnout with your character. If it's becoming a problem where you're going, look, if this happens another 3 times, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm getting burnt out on doing this work and not being able to deliver it at the table when we say we're going to sit down and do it.
So that's you as a DM putting down a boundary.
Yeah, I think.
Which is a very healthy thing to do in any relationship.
Yeah.
So
I think that that's now one thing I'll say with regard to the player DM aspect, because I think this can lend to burnout on both sides. Now we schedule things such that we have never run a session where everyone wasn't present.
Nope.
But it is, I think, far more common for tables to, if you can make it, great. If you can't, the session just keeps right on trucking. Here's the thing.
Okay.
From a player perspective, I think what you are doing is you are creating this rock and a hard place situation where you might be going, I need this weekend. I'm burning out. I just need that step away.
Mm-hmm.
And the table is going, great, we'll see you next time. And you're going, now, the next time I show up, I'm either that much more out of the loop, which isn't helping this feeling of burnout, or I show up to a session I know I don't want to show up to. And so there's this sense of, again, something I will throw out there. I know how difficult scheduling is. I know a number of DMs.
Especially when you have large tables.
Yes. I know. And so, again, everyone I know is doing everything they can to make it work. But something I would say is consider the fact that when you are in a situation where you're going, hey, sessions come up this Friday, and especially if a player's come to you and said, hey, like I'm feeling a little burnt out. I don't know if I'm going to be there this Friday. That rolling through with that session is putting them in a position where either they are getting further disconnected from the narrative, or you're saying, show up and get a little more burnt out, or you're going to miss out on the, there is a like an inverse incentive structure that exists there that, again, that is not a call to modify everyone. Like I said, I think everyone is managing time as best they can. It's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. We're going to the pros and cons of taking a break, that discussion, which I think is really, and before we go there, the only thing I want to add to that, I want to, because I think DM burnout is much more prevalent because it's because of the amount of time. It's a part-time job you don't get paid for.
Yeah.
So what can I do as a player character to help support you?
That's a really good question. I think, I think one of the big ones is there's a lot that can happen at the table. There's a lot of levers to pull at the table that kind of natively exist in the DM's wheelhouse. And I think there are some of them that there's no good reason that they have to.
Okay.
A really good example at our table is you handle the music.
Yep.
And the thing is I want the music. If you said if there was no one at the table to do it, I'd be doing it.
Right.
And it would be one more thing that I'd have to have the playlist, and I'd have to,
Yeah.
And the same thing goes. I mean, if you hand off initiative tracking, if you hand off whatever it is, there are so many systems.
In our table right now, you handle initiative tracking. Would you like someone to take care of
that?
No.
I don't. But I'm. That's. I mean.
See, this is me caring about my DM right now.
No, but and the thing is that's really good. If you're a player out there listening to this right now, and you feel like, hey, there's probably something I could do, it's at least worth the ask. But I think there are many systems, and there's all sorts of times where, like, for NPCs, like not where a fight breaks out and the NPC's in the scene, and I'll go, who wants to roll for, who wants to track their hit points? Who
that's
wants
kind of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of fun for the players.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't care about running this.
Right, as long as the dice are being rolled, you're good.
Yeah, and again, there are many systems. A lot of the stuff, I think, that ends up being kind of the satellites to the game table itself, those are huge boons. So the music, snacks and drinks and that kind of stuff. Like, again, I can't really speak from experience here because these are things that you guys have always done. I mean, I count myself very fortunate, but let's say every time I wanted to schedule a session with you guys, I knew, like, okay, shit, I got to go get beer. I got to go get snacks. I got to get my playlist ready. I got to get my maps ready. I got to, all these things. Whereas it's just kind of been this organic, we schedule the session. I know what planning I have to do. Generally you guys or Amanda are handling the drink/snack side of things.
Yep.
You're handling music. I mean, there is a blanketing of those responsibilities. So and beyond that, I would just say, and I think this goes player and DM alike. The question of it is such a small thing to end a session and go, hey man, that speech you gave was money. And there could be times where you're just going like the last 3 sessions you're just going like, I don't know, man, I'm not sure about, and you get that moment and it hits home for someone else or anyone's else at the table going, you crushed that. That was killer. It might be just that small. That might be all the little bump. And like I said, I think that goes both ways. It takes virtually nothing to say,
thank you.
That was a particularly good session.
Yeah.
That was a particularly good speech. That was oh man.
I love that character that you made.
Yeah, that move that you did. I think all of those little things, like I said, if regularly those little things are occurring, that's a pretty strong insulation against it.
So just what I heard was, 1, show respect to DM with time. That with showing up,
hands down the biggest one.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any question.
2, supporting in ways that you feel that you can alleviate, if that's what, and maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Yeah.
And 3, validate. Hey,
and that's a two-way street.
Yeah,
that is absolutely not. And like I said, I think I think that's for anyone. That's just a potent. It's the lowest overhead thing that you can do.
No, how hard is it after a 4-hour session? Hey man, thanks. That was a fun evening.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
Yeah. And like I said, same deal. And
I'm very guilty. I don't say that very often, and I'm sorry about that.
Like I said, I don't have any qualms with regard to our overall table interactions. So
next time I'll give you a little massage after.
Thanks, man. Thanks. We generally are recording on Saturday, so I'll take a rain check for a Tuesday though.
For Tuesday.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So now, what do you think about?
Let's get into mitigation and because I think that's something that that is. I'll put it this way. I don't think I'm well poised to speak on the issue.
Okay.
I'm better poised to speak on the issue
because you have such amazing player characters at your table.
That's no. The thing is that you're being a tongue-in-cheek asshole as usual, but
maybe later. It's Tuesday.
But it's the truth. Is every DM knows what it's like to have great players at their table. Mm-hmm. Every player knows what it's like to be sitting at a table with a great DM. Mm-hmm. And that's not just great as in they play their characters well, they do it. It's great as in they acknowledge both directions, that this is a major time investment and they don't disrespect that process. Mm-hmm. And so I would say I'm gonna feel a lot more confident speaking to the ways in which you can insulate yourself and your table against it.
Okay.
Versus what can we do should we feel that
well, I think preventative care is by far the best way to go about it.
Yeah. But I've been flapping gums for a little bit. Let's pivot over on your side.
Oh boy.
What would you say and again, feel free to cross the screen here. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking the best antidotes to burnout? We've already talked about stepping away. And let's get into those pros and cons a little bit.
Yeah, stepping away, I think, is the automatic, hey, I just need to take a break. And that might be the right answer at that time. And that's going to be something you have to. So I think we talked about I love talking about pros and cons. So for me, I've been burnt out before. I'll give you an example. I've been burnt out on music before. For those of you who don't know me, which is probably like 90% of you, because I don't know who the heck you are. But I'm a classically trained musician.
I think by hour, our viewership is like 50% subscribed, so they have some idea who you are.
Hi. Oh, you.
Well, the other 50% are going like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. Well, okay. Heads up, classically trained musician. So I was hard into music. I mean, I majored in it in college. I got my master's in it. I traveled the world, blah, 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 blah. And I've been doing it ever since. And it got to a point where I can do it. I mean, my job is to teach music, so I can do it. But I had no passion for it anymore. And in that case, I did. some things happened. There was you might not know about a year ago that something happened in the world that we won't name by name, but it kind of called a halt to most everything in the world.
The nameless pandemic. I think it was 2 years ago now.
God,
time flies.
Yeah, which it forced me to stop.
Especially once you hit your 40s. So
I'm not there yet. 2 years out. I'm still a young buck.
I was going to say you are a sprightly young fucker.
Yes, sir. But it forced it, and then it's taken about 2 years.
Yeah,
I'm starting to get it back.
Yeah. Well, so here's the question then: do you think that time away was the right reaction to 100%. That burnout?
Yes. 100%.
Yep.
The fact that it's coming back, yes.
Yeah.
If I kept soldiering through,
well. So here's. Let's finish this because I have a follow-up question to that, but it's going to challenge that notion a little bit.
Please.
So I want to finish the thought before we go there. So I'm not trying to cut off the point if you've got more.
No. The break was very, very good for me, and in fact, I'm starting to have fun with it again.
So, because what I was going to throw out, and this is specific to D&D, but I would be curious to see how you think this potentially graphs to music or other aspects. Is I think for me. I can say even amidst the much heavier D&D related schedule since we started Modern Myth.
Yes, I would love to ask you about that.
Yeah, well, I would say pretty unequivocally, I have not felt the tinges of burnout. And I think if I was going to, it'd be in that early portion where there was so much front loaded. Like we're to the point now where it's kind of back to just do the work.
Yep.
Run it and do the work. And so I think that has passed. I may find that I'm wrong about that, but something I was going to throw out is not with any relativity to burnout, but it was interesting because it was about a year ago. Jake came out and we ran a one shot.
That was fun.
I ran a little, maybe 2 or 3
shout
sessions.
Out to Jake if you're watching
them. Yeah, Jake, drop something in the comments. Just be like, hey, I was that Hans.
You are super awesome.
I was that
by
Hans
the way.
Hans dude with
that
dude. So I ran that one shot with you guys, which up to this point we were exclusively running rovers.
Yep.
I mean, we ran that one shot. I ran a little 3 shot for them. It wasn't long after that I started running the secondary campaign
Hearthstone thing.
Yep. And so here's the thing. That's a lot more D&D.
That's
but
like 3
it gave
campaigns.
me a better appreciation for the time that I was spending at the Rovers table because it was different. It was just so it wasn't about the quantity. I wasn't getting burnt out on quantity, and I wouldn't call it burnout. It's just that, but it's that notion of when you're able to pivot. So say musically, rather than stepping away for a minute, just pivoting into a different musical expression, a different way of exercising those skills. I know I certainly found, and another good example. Right now, I'm running that Twitter campaign. Very different. Doing things by text is very different. It's got my mind working and entirely. I mean, if I want to take a day to respond to something, I've got it. It's a very different format for it. But all of that, when I sit back down at the Rovers table, I'm more invested in the game of D&D for playing in these other spaces because part of it is I get to appreciate the way other players are engaging in that space. I get to appreciate the way I engage with other players in that space.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. So to my counterpoint, I guess, is I feel more invigorated at the table for having taken on more D&D.
It sounds like you're being inspired.
Well, and I think that's what it is. And to some extent, my argument, I guess, would be it's going to be really difficult to stub your toe on that spark that made you fall in love with it in the first place.
If you're
not doing it at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the only reason I bring that up is because I've been dabbling in these other spaces and going, I'm so stoked to sit down at the road. Like I've thought, what happened there? That was a really cool interaction.
Right.
And I know why it played out that way. Like I could see that grafting into our long form game. And so I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts on that concept.
No, That makes total sense. Heck, there's even you can make the argument that, yeah, you're going through a slump right now, but stick with it. Because let's say we're using a lot of like outside of D&D references, like if you're exercising, right, and you're lifting weights, there's going to come a point where you hit a plateau.
Right.
And plateaus freaking suck. So
demonetized.
I'm sorry.
I'm
trying to watch my language more.
This was going to be the one. This was going to be the one that I retired on.
Everything. I ruined our enterprise. But yeah, if you hit that plateau, you get really demotivated. But here's what's cool is if you stick with it, you show the consistency, you're going to get past that plateau and reach new heights.
Right.
So I think it boils down to wisdom about who you are and where you are. What else is happening? Are you a caregiver that you're having to spend so much time helping? I mean, you're being tapped on so much that you can't give to someone else versus like, hey, I'm just not feeling this world. I mean, there's just so many different things that could weigh into it.
I guess what I would float out there is if you're having the impulse of I need to step away from this for a moment, this might not be the entire hobby of D&D. It might be I need to step away from this specific campaign or this specific character or
very much.
And like I said, I mean, I can 100%, I can get behind if you're playing a long form campaign and you are a player, it quite frankly, it boggles my mind if at some point you don't go, I'd love to just run a little 3-shot where I get to just try on a totally different set of clothes. I can be, maybe I'm the real serious by the numbers character and I want to play that crazy kooky character
and a whole table can get to this point.
Absolutely. In fact, I think there's something to be said about in the space of burnout, and we're talking about insulating, and this is, I would say, a relatively new epiphany, and this is really coming off of what I was just talking about. My dabbling, kind of unintentionally, was just kind of like, oh, hey, Jake's coming out, and he wants to play. Yeah, let's do something there.
Yeah.
Hey, I threw as a joke out on Twitter, like, hey, name your race and class. Where it was a response to someone else's tweet, and I said like, let's get this party going.
That's
and
cool, by the way.
I mean, and it's been a very enjoyable experience. I mean, again, if someone went like running campaign via tweets, I would go like, not in a million years, not with a 100-foot pole. So I guess the long and short of that is proper care and feeding of your table as a DM. It may be well advised if you have, even if everyone's loving it, you're having a great long form campaign. Find an opportunity to introduce a space that can be in the campaign. Yeah. You can do something really kooky where even in the scope of the campaign, there's some weird character shift going on.
You see it happen all the time, and like in season, and like in TV shows, they do that all the time.
Right. Alternatively, if that's not the direction you want to go, just go, hey guys, what do you think about running a one-shot this weekend?
Yep, I love it.
If you're in a production, you may not have that flexibility all the time.
But if you're in a production, oh my gosh, it's rough, dude.
Most people are not.
Yes.
And so cool. Take a weekend and go. What pull the table? Just go. Hey, would you guys like to try on some different clothes and run a one shot? Because what you might find is those players who maybe things have been a little lethargic at the table. Right. Boom. They remember why they fell in love with this game.
Such a good idea.
And they remember how much they applied themselves to those characters. I mean, again, I can completely sympathize, not having to do it myself, sitting down in the same, wearing the same shoes every time you sit down at the table. Yeah. That's something a DM doesn't have to grapple with. Yeah. I'm blessed / cursed by the fact that I get to change clothes all the time. So that's
it's Tuesday.
Something.
But that's something to recognize within that is that we as player characters do have control. That we have control with our character arcs, and that if our character is starting to feel stagnant, take it upon yourself. Can I find ways to make it more interesting?
Yes.
It might be no, can't do it. Then that's a conversation you need to start having.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there is absolutely, and I guess this is all couched in the notion that the DM is providing space for the characters to drive the narrative appropriately. Mm-hmm. If you don't have control, then you've got maybe bigger problems on your hands.
Yeah,
but
that's another episode right there.
If you have control over the narrative, then if you are being dissatisfied with where your character's at, take some time and be introspective about how you might course correct.
Right.
That's not to say you're going to swerve around that burnout and that there's that it's all your fault. If you're burnt out, there's no other contributing factors.
Yes.
But I completely agree that your hands are on the steering wheel for that character, and that burnout feeling may also be an indicator from a character standpoint that it's time for your character to make a change. You might, again, if you've completed that arc, well, so what is next for that character? Right. Are they retiring from the adventuring life? Great. Maybe they need to be written out. Maybe did they have a very potent interaction with a god or goddess? Maybe they need to multi-class into a divine class and start pursuing that.
Paladin, freaking awesome.
Paladin's such a weak class. I'm just kidding. Actually, Paladin pretty tight.
Yeah, not pretty tight.
Paladin pretty broke.
Pretty broke.
Anyway. No, I mean, I don't even know that we need to drive too much further forward.
No,
I think
we get good.
The last notes. Usually we do a bit of a recap.
Yeah,
but
please.
Instead of that, last notes. There's someone listening to this right now who's going like, "Holy crap! I think I have been on the fringes of burning out, or I am burning out right now."
Which is awesome that you're that aware.
Yes,
that's great.
Talk to the players out there. What's a good course of action if they're in the space right now where they're going, "Yes, I'm burnt out."
The first, I think, thing that as a player you need to to self-realize is, why are you being burnt out? Okay, is it your character? As we talked about, that is pretty safe waters you can navigate. Is it that you don't like the game systems? Well, that gets a little bit more complicated. Is it you don't like the people you're playing with? Well, that's a totally different thing. That's not burnout. That's conflict.
Right. I completely agree with that. I think do not throw the baby out with the bathwater on that. And we've talked about. I think let's say, meandered around the notion of finding a table that's right for you. That there's so many different tables out there.
So many different tables.
Sorry, continue.
But realize what you have control over, and then go from there. And hey, maybe you realize through introspective reflection that this is not the time to invest in a very, very heavy, dependent of your time and energy game. And that you can always come back. You can always come back. But if you're just like, I'm just not jiving, then take some ownership and see how can you solve the problem for yourself.
I love that. I think, communication is key. Again, don't trick yourself into thinking that you're not holding that joystick, you're not holding that steering wheel, and that you do have, probably more than anyone, control over what happens next for that character, what happens next for you as a player.
And DMs love talking about this shit. Like, again, I don't know why we don't I love this. This split screen has been extremely beneficial for me, by the way, as a player, just to be able to talk to the DM and just.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue to the DM side. There is no world in which the communication isn't going to be echoed. If you are a DM and you are in that space where you're going like, I got a session this weekend. Oh my God, I'm trying to, I got 20 things going. I got, and you're just feeling like this is not a tenable thing. I'm starting to feel burnt out on this. I would say two things. One, of everyone in the ethos, the grand scheme of a table coming together, you probably have your hand on the broader joystick, the broader control. So remember that and take some time to be introspective about what it is, just like you said, that you are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed on, or and again, I would look at that delineation between the things that are within your control that you may be burning yourself out with.
Good point.
And the things that are not. Now, obviously, if you're burning yourself out, the communication thing is moot.
Yep. Ooh, we said the same words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You owe me a Coke.
That's I've never heard someone 1 through 10, you owe me a Coke. I've never heard that before.
Really?
It's always been Jinx buy me a Coke.
Oh, you have to count to 10.
That's mean. All right, anyways, I'm getting a little burnt out on this whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, let's wrap up this bad boy.
The last point being
it's internal, so yeah.
That communication is key. If you think that it is a derivative of I'll call it a lack of respect from the player side or from table wide for that matter, people don't know that it's bothering you if you don't let them know. Yep. So, be respectful, but you have to communicate those things.
And players, please recognize the effort and sacrifice that your DM makes. Like you show up at a table and you just get to enjoy a story. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah. There's a huge amount going on behind the scenes. I would at least throw the little urge of caution for there may be times where it feels like I need to just walk away from this outright, especially on the DM side. Again, it is within your control to go to the group and say, hey, what do you guys think about this one shot? Hey, what do you guys think about,
reignite that spark?
Yeah. What or bringing into your broader campaign some way that turns everything on its ear. So for a few sessions or for an adventure hook, everything is different.
You wake up from your character. Oh, that would be so cool. All of a sudden you find yourself waking up in a bed. Was what you experienced, everything in the past, a dream, and what you're now experiencing a reality?
There's so many things that you can do.
I love that idea.
But those are in your control as a DM. And so if you're feeling that burnout, I would say there's a good chance that's going to start leaching out to the table.
Yeah.
Because what you're bringing to the table every single time you sit down, there's an energy to that will be reciprocated.
Absolutely.
So
yep.
I think that's pretty much.
I think well, that's a little bit of a heavy topic there.
Yeah, but burnout's real for anyone out there who is engaging with it. Get with your players, get with your DMs.
And if you've thought of some creative solutions that we haven't thought of, or some problems you have, hey, if you are going through burnout, please put in comments about what you're going through, and maybe we can help out.
Yeah. Josh is combing the comments. I'm in the comments. I respond to every single comment personally.
Whoever said I sound like Jeff Goldblum, oh, you made my life.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
That was Maple Dragoon. That was.
That was. Yeah, that was. Oh, you made my life. Thank you so much.
Jay Frazier, I think.
The highest compliment I've ever been paid.
I think it actually was, and I've paid him some high compliments.
It's Tuesday.
But no, drop it in the comments. Seriously, if you are in a space where you're going, I'm feeling like hit me up. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Serious. There is not I don't think there's a single comment across our entire channel that I haven't personally responded to. I will be doing that. So if you found ways of overcoming that, I'd love to hear it in the comments, because you guys are many heads out there. We are just two idiots here with microphones.
We just like talking about D&D.
With all that, to me, this one just feels like an old school takeout.
Yeah.
You want to do it?
Yeah, sure.
Take us out.
The world is yours.